Start recording, start streaming, all that good stuff. Alright, guys, so welcome back. It is Sunday for me. Oh, alright, now you can't hear me. Hello! There we go. Man, can't win with this mic. Let me turn... I apologize, guys. There's a trade-off for the screeching volume goes up along with my voice, so I don't have a great balance for that yet. Hey, Germany. Hey, Alex. Sam, who I assume to be Ramo up at the top there, and others. How are you guys doing? So, yeah. Long time no see. Fukuoka is finished. London finished. San Jose is finished. And we also have, I think, one or two events this weekend across the world. So, so what's new, guys? What's up? I'm here to discuss anything and everything. To be honest, I decided today I'd just leave it all to you guys. It can be anything about casters, architect, force of will, etc. Green is broken. I'm aware. Yeah, it's a design issue. I can say, though, we had a good meeting on Friday night, and we were talking about the new cluster and how we're moving stuff around, and I'm happy with the direction we're going as far as the color redistribution and kind of ruler distribution and whatnot. What was the GP London? So I messaged Ben, and he had the list, but because there was a Spain event this weekend, I guess they were trying to kind of keep the list hidden to some extent. I do know that I haven't seen any of the lists from London yet, and I've asked. I think there's like one or two that got posted, but I've been hunting for the lists because I obviously want to put them on my website, and I use the data from all the big tournaments, and that's a relatively big tournament, so I would like to incorporate that into my standings. Did anyone ask about the Sherry problem? No, not yet, so please, go talk to me about the Sherry problem. And yes, I know about the percentages, and I agree, like, it is a very strong card. It has, obviously, a huge card advantage engine over other rulers. Ohayou gozaimasu. Genki. How did it slip? Wait, not to be overly critical, Jeff, but the game is rapidly decreasing in attendance worldwide. How did it slip through the cracks? Let me think. 100% honest, I honestly think that the Japanese team wasn't really aware of the international standing, and more so than just honestly with the players. Like, honestly, I think we've, like, at least started to go in the right direction as far as players are concerned. We're really, like, I've made it very clear, like, when I go to the meetings, that I try to be, like, the voice of players. But I think another thing that still needs to be worked on a lot, and that is a kind of the next big project, is regaining the trust of retailers as well, because there's been some kind of small market research on our retailers, and it's really shown that we haven't bridged that gap yet. We haven't fixed that relationship, and that's the next big thing, is how to regain retailer trust, because in the US in particular, we can't use distributors as a form of communication with players, and so our best option is really to make sure your LGS appreciates Force of Will and what we do for you guys through them. so that you go there. I will talk a little bit about R4 near the end. That's my little wrap-up, is a little R4 thing. But I did not set up the picture thing, so it might be a little bit messy at first. Let's see here. Was Sherry it a problem that need to be fixed ASAP, otherwise it will hurt the game? While I agree that problems need to be dealt with as soon as possible, I think that you have a month's worth of data. You have people that a month ago were complaining about Lumia and Rachel, who, I mean, and yes, that combo is a thing, but it's not incredibly viable. I mean, it works, but I think Lumia is actually better with like Mosasaurus and Beelzebub and like other larger threat stuff. So I think people sometimes get distracted, and yes, I think with Otherworldly Dreams, Lumia would have been much scarier, but as it is. Is there any plans to address the Sherry problem? The deck is too good, and I'm a Sherry player. It has too many answers, and you can start... Yep. So there's two ways to address it. One of them comes in the new cluster, and as far as in R4, I've been kind of thinking about that to some extent. But again, lots of stuff is going to get support in R4, so it needs to kind of be adjusted carefully. I wonder, will there be any major event Rhea cluster only after? I think Malaysia does block constructed basically, but outside of that, I'm not a big fan of block constructed. So that's well, at least I'm not a big fan of block constructed for just like 4 sets, and unless you like want to do it for that reason. But is it for a balancing reason? Not a big fan. So let me know, as you probably know, it's ever come back from the cloud. What's the first one? I understand that you said that we lost Alex, I don't mean this in any kind of insulting way or anything, but like the plan is for the retailers, and so as not a retailer, no, I understand not simple things. Like that would be something if you really want to go into, like hopefully there'll be a post on it soon, but that's a discussion for the retailers, not for the company to discuss with the players directly. That simply. But it seems like... So yes, I do agree though, your last comment there about something big to entice players and retailers is needed. I agree. And working on that. It's killer because it's more of a waiting game than anything else. People won't play the game when there's only one big deck. I know. Unfortunately, there's 3 big decks right now. People won't play the game even try it, thus dropping the game. We'll focus on making more balance in the game. Yeah, guys, I know. Like, why do you think I make a ban list? To reprint the dual stones, or is the game shifting? That's a very big discussion topic inside our meetings, and so there hasn't been an official conclusion yet. That I'm honestly 50-50. I could go absolutely both ways, and both of them would make sense to me, and I just need like to hear more of the reason for either one, more so from design and kind of the direction that the next set's taking. People don't like waiting. Unfortunately, we are playing a analog game, so the instant gratification that you might get in Hearthstone or Shadowverse, we can't do with just updating, and so there is that wait. And because we don't have the direct data collection that the online games have, we also have to wait in real time to get that stuff back. And so we do have a longer turnaround. The plus side is if those games ever go away, or you go outside and actually have friends and do stuff, you can still play our game, and no one can ever take your cards away. So that part's cool. Um, no, Alex. The thought is that like we will continue, like we want to continue to try and do good by players, like more consistently, but also we really need to focus on the local game stores. Like we really need their support. That sounds like we're having a radio cluster in our ambassador. Up to R3. Ah, okay, yeah. That Alan had talked to me about it, and he was testing some stuff out, and I just suggested that he maybe consider a even in block ban list of a couple cards. So I was like, take a look at these. They're a little bit broken / too strong, but yeah, good stuff. So on an interesting, cool note, what's it called? Okinawa, which my American friends probably know, but the island of Okinawa has not really. Oh, hello, Dell backup recovery. Hold on. The island of Okinawa has gotten a lot of support recently. I guess a lot of their Magic players found out about us, and the lower cost is definitely something that is attractive to them, because I think there's a lot of younger people. So that was cool. I was really happy to hear about that, especially for Japan's market. So let's see here. Actual player shop. No, I understand that like players are number one concern, but we also need retailers to actually like give you a place to play, to have all that stuff there, to like have a place to buy a product, etc. Let's see. Lower Japan's site is updating, but the English site is taking a holiday from it. Yeah, honestly, I was surprised at that. They were running them past me for a little while, but some of the the quality was really questionable. So I was having a buddy work on them, and then I haven't gotten any articles in a little while. So I don't know if they're just letting the Japanese team do it, and then we're gonna get them later, because we generally got our lore articles later. I have a couple like backlogged articles to be posted, but just I haven't seen the timeline for that, so I don't know exactly what's going on with that. That's a good question, actually. As far as let's see, sorry guys, reading. 30-person GP, yeah. I mean, it's tough, but again, like the San Jose, that wasn't necessarily like, we're super thankful. Jim took care of us. He helped us out in a time of need, but like we only had a month to let you guys know, and so that can be rough. I understand that. So like that's one of the things where I would really like to get ahead on that kind of stuff, and you guys can at least know far enough in advance to get more heads up. So, Jeff, are we going to get some Western GPs? What are you talking about? You got more Western GPs than any other place in the world. My locals can't ever participate in the game competitively. Can you please clarify where Western? Are you talking Western Japan, Western, like Europe, Western, is in the USA, South America? Just give me some details there. New booster packs. Don't like it. Why? Can we bring back to the old one? That was, so I've talked about it before, but essentially in R3 we changed printing companies, and the current printing company didn't have the machinery available to make those kind of real nice fancy boxes. So that's why we didn't have an R3. Alex, that's not what I'm saying. So as far as the retailers and players, right now, if I was to look at it, like, you are beating a dead horse, but my point being that, like, if we have, all right, let's say my screen is 100%, right? So, like, players have come up a little bit. Like, we now have stuff in place for them. We have a ban list to try and work with the metagame. We have more conscientious designing going forward to help the balance of the game. We have much more communication with the game. The retailers, at least in the US, have not had the support they need to deal with online sales just totally overrunning any kind of profit they could ever make. There's no kind of support directly to them to ensure that they get promos or that their events are being prioritized over someone just buying product and not supporting their game store at all. And so the LGS has a much lower kind of baseline to, like, us than players do right now. So we've improved or tried to improve our communication with players, as you may have noticed. But the improvements to the LGSs as far as product, as far as communication, has not been restored even to the same level as what the players have right now. So that's why, that's that. Like, if you want to go into more of it, we can, but that's the kind of the basis, is that as much as you may feel like that the players need more, while I agree with you, the retailers are even lower, and so they need to at least get up to a baseline where the players are at as well. If they did not have machines available at the time, does that mean they will have it ready going forward? From my understanding, the R4 is going to be printed at the same company, but as of this week, we're sending Japanese guys to the company to oversee the printing of R4, because those are the guys that have the kind of eye for detail. And I mean, I destroyed tons of cards testing the quality, and I gave my report to them, and then they were going to make sure that R4 is printed in the quality that we're expecting. You guys are expecting as well. I'm a stickler for quality. Like, I triple sleeve my cards because the humidity in Japan will, like, as you guys know, warp cards, etc. I have little silicone packets in all my boxes to keep the moisture out, and I don't have a humidor, but, like, card quality is really important to me, and so, like, I trust these guys that they will go about doing it in a good way. What are your thoughts on how Forcer will executed the distribution of sealed abilities on starter deck? I think it was a cool idea implemented incorrectly. As far as what I might have done differently, this is just me, not the company. But I would have liked to see, like, the baseline ruler that we came and got. And if they wanted to improve it over time, I think what they could have done is have some kind of, whether it's like an extra deck kind of like cards that they got, or things that over time reacted, like, if your ruler is Tigris Pearlshine, then and it gets better and better and better, and those effects get more and more powerful. Now, as far as adjusting how a ruler is printed, that's tough. So that's one of those things where, like, I don't have a great answer for how to do that. I think I would have adjusted the power level around the ruler a little bit more and made it more and more specific to that ruler, of, like, having certain things does this, or release them at full power but with a little bit less support, so that it took time to get to those features. Like, I liked the idea of having a card that had Thunderstorm before we knew what Thunderstorm was, so that players knew, okay, we're going to have thunderstorm at some point. Like, this shows that we will have rain, we will have thunderstorm. We don't know what thunderstorm is yet, but it exists, and so it's kind of like, all right, what are you doing here for? So what are you going to try? So I like that kind of like subtle preview kind of thing, but I do understand, like, I think the biggest issue came from the ability to, like, well, not the ability, the overprinting of the reprints made it so that people weren't even happy about it, and that's tough. I think that was, if anything, that was the misexecution there. Oh, what happened? We live in Canada, Victoria, but Seattle was a perfect location for us. But this year, Tacoma did not happen. California could have worked. Well, we had California, but it was kind of not as much heads up as players needed. Again, I apologize, but that was, to work with the timing that we had, that was the best we could do. Battle Simulator, waiting, it's above my... I know Edgy was talking about it with the investors and some of the programming guys about how to go about doing that, so, and legal and all that jazz, so. Alrighty, that was that question. Game Trade, yeah, Game Trade does awesome. All of the European countries have an awesome kind of distribution advertisement, because those are companies in the country that have access to teams and media outlets that aren't directly from the company. They can do kind of their own thing with that. Problem is, in the U.S., the distributors don't do anything for us. They're simply, all U.S. distributors are box movers, and that's it. That's it. And that's our challenge. And same in Japan, actually, is that distributors don't care about any of the games. Even, like, the big guys, like, obviously they're incentivized by money, but they don't support, like, do anything in particular. And the other side is, like, in Japan, at least, we have a lot of chain retailers, so it's like one big one, whereas in the U.S. it's a lot of mom and pop kind of stuff. Jeff, the tournament floor rules allow us to use oversleeve on our decks, which currently no. I think that got changed a while back. If there's any judges in the chat, please go ahead and tell me if that was changed. But I know in Japan you can use oversleeves. I think some of the American judges told me, I think now you can use oversleeves. Someone double check on that. Hey Jeff, I see you have a PlayStation mic there. What's your PSN account name? If you play either Monster Hunter or Dragon Ball Z Fighters, later on I will tell you my PSN account and you can beat me up in those games. So, Alex, we are looking into it. If that makes you feel better. Trying to find either the right person or just ensure that the right person is able to do that. And yeah, and U.S. companies make that presence at these events, hiring representatives to push and promote their games. Yep, and so that's what we've been looking into. But that's more for company stuff, not so much for player stuff. So, like, as I'm sure that, like, if we decide on something, there absolutely will be an update on it. But for the time being, like, those are kind of discussions that are not for just everybody to hear, kind of thing. What is the status of the next print run of Time Spinning Witch? I'm also not sure you guys run... Also, I'm not sure you guys run where the GPs are located, but putting the Toronto GP at Anime North and making us players pay entry into the Anime North, it seems unfair. I talked with the guy who's running Anime North, and so that Alex, I believe his name is, a very nice guy. I'm sorry, that question, I just I'm having a hard time processing it. So, the where they're located is online. As far as why it's in an anime convention, I mean, we have kind of an anime-based game. I'm not sure what, as far as the the entrance fee versus the tournament fee is, but that's not something that we directly decided. Um, do, 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 do. So another problem is like not even the U.S. group admins do their part to advertise. And two GPs, and here's the winners on. And here you tap for participants. I'm sorry, I must have missed the combination that of the questions you're asking. I'm sorry. As far as, yeah, people asking who won, I know. I've been collecting the names. I wanted to put the names, the deck lists, and like a congratulations on the homepage, but I haven't gotten all the deck lists, so I haven't made the post yet. As far as the deck lists themselves, I posted on my own personal website all the top 8s I can collect, and actually Ernesto helps me out a lot with that too, so. No, yeah, TCG Scrubs do great. The Quick Cast does great. Deep Wood does great. Like, there's lots of that, but of course, yes, there should also be like official kind of posts for just congratulatory messages and whatnot. I agree with that. My goal is that there. So as you may know, the UK also. The distributor and retail chain is kind of struggling a little bit. And so Ben's done a lot of great work there, but there's still not a great chain of communication to get back to us quickly. And so it would be my goal that like Monday of after the tournaments, there's like a weekly update or whatever of like who won, what their deck lists were for the big tournaments around the world. But it's just the communication hasn't been the quickest. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Jeremy. I forgot. My bad. He's had his baby, so he's been busy. That's fine. Why no checklist cards with the double face cards? Magic did that. Great idea. Our team either doesn't like the idea or that's a design choice that I just haven't gone into with them. But logistically, I agree because it's a pain in the butt, right? Especially triple sleeving, which I was playing iMule yesterday, and so I was running like invert iMule, and all my cards are triple sleeved. But as it turns out, like take off sleeve, take out the inner sleeve, put it back in, put the outer sleeve back on, set it down. Times like 4 or 5, that can get to be a pain in the butt. So logistically, I get it; it's a pain, but that's the only reason I can understand. And I mean, I don't know if, off the top of my head, I don't know if Magic copyrighted that or whatever else. So. I've actually, as far as someone talking about like having the tools to promote, I've actually really, since the beginning almost, asked that we make like a, I don't even know what you would call it. Shadowverse does this, and Hearthstone I think does as well. Like a content creator pack, like it has like the logo, and it has some nice artwork, and it has some like some higher quality stuff, so that if people want to advertise and they want to make stuff even for their own like shop or whatever else, like we have some like copyright, not free, but like stuff that we've deemed appropriate to give out to shops and content creators so that they can make their stuff look official and look nice. So the easier it is for you guys to support us, I think that's a win-win for both of us. It makes your content look better, and it makes our game look better. So, do you know the deck types of London? I was at the event, I believe. I'm not sure. I heard about an IU. I don't know what position it was in, etc., etc. So I have a list with every GP / decent sized ARG / any large events in Europe, APAC, Japan. I keep track of everything, but I haven't gotten anything official yet, and I haven't had time to scroll through and go one by one. We don't sleeve. So if you don't sleeve, then you're gonna have a real tough problem. Like, you should be sleeving even if you're doing draft. I think that's the standard these days. If you're not sleeving and you're using dual-face cards, then you're obviously going to have some very interesting gameplay. Any plans to reprint older cards in new set? I've talked about it a lot, even as so much as like leaving a space in blocks for reprinting like useful meta cards that are so that like we don't need to remake the same functional reprint. We can just like, hey, this card was good. It should come back into the game to be healthy. I've considered that. I don't know what our philosophy is on that, what they've kind of taken to that comment, but that was something I thought would be nice. Hey, Roderick, how are you? When is Sherry getting banned? I very rarely hit a ruler unless they do something really naughty. But that's like, there's time for like anything to be good. But again, like I've told you guys this before, design for all of Rhea was like in place prior to me being like, hey guys, balance cards, okay, thanks. So there is some inherent issues with that, but I'll do my best. Any plan on other mediums for the game? You've probably already seen it, but hold on. Let me get you some cool stuff. This is a wireless keyboard. Why is it plugged in? Hold on, guys. Give me 1 sec. All right, so we're back. So just curious. This is just a curious. As far as I know, there's no production plans of this on a large scale. But tell me what you think. And so, all right, we have something like this, which is a nice little just pouch. Yay! These are cute, right? So, like, I really like this. I bring this with me to locals and stuff. So that's neat. But and Alan, these are a thank you to you. All right, let's see. Oh, Kevin, did you keep my... Oh, you punk. So at locals, I think I was... Oh, no, all right, I do have Sherry. Okay, cool. So, like, for example, we have, like, Imule and Dusk Girl and Sherry. And then on the back, you have just the Force of Will logo. So they're great Energize coins, right? So I know, like, one of the issues in the US has been, like, it's hard to differentiate what side they're on. So something like this would be like, okay, I have Energize for this ruler, and then bloop. Now I've used it, and you can move it off to the side or whatever else. But this way you can kind of confirm that used it, unused kind of thing. So those are neat. We got, I mean, we have ones for all, like, IU, Pandora, Gil, etc. So, yeah. So, I, I definitely, so give me, I'll take it as in two different ones. So as far as the bag goes, with like different characters and whatnot, yay, nay, cool, no cool. And then uh, these dice bags are not made by or for anyone. I'm pretty sure this is custom. But okay, so popular. All right. As far as the energized coins, yay or nay on that? Double yay. Of course, yeah. Okay, all right. I will relay that information to the to Edgy basically and to the higher ups. So, actual energized. So okay, all right, very good. Um, that's so yeah. It's cool stuff, right? Like any info coming to us about R4. I just buy them to have them. Really, I mean, like, I think they're super cool. Like I said, I would just throw them. Have you guys ever seen? I think I forget who does it, but Cardboard Crack. He does the like. Or no. It was Sarah Scribbles. Sarah Scribbles. She does like the Facebook posts and stuff. And in the real version, she's like really cheap, and then she goes to the bookstore and like throws all the money. I would love to see something like that, but just like instead of like with magic or force of will or whatever, it's just like throw all the money. Life counters. I mean, we did. Hold on. I have my one from. Oh, I left it in my bag, but I have the ones from like Grimm and stuff that we made. As far as the R4 stuff, I already said at the end I have a little preview for you. If you ask me the right questions, I will answer them to some degree, depending on what you ask about R4. This game got me to stop smoking. I want money. I want more money to spend on it. Hey Jeff, do you know about the legend cards from Pokemon back during the Heart Gold Soul Silver era? They were so my Pokemon experience, the card game, was from '98 to maybe 2001. So OG when it was still printed by Wizards of the Coast up until whatever the set was with the double star. It was the Sneasel set. That was the end of it for me. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. Sorry, I gotta blow my nose. The allergies are a little bit strong here. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. How To answer your question, how many rulers are in R4? There are 3. There will be some interesting things about one of them I will discuss when we get closer. They're all cool. That's let's see. The dice are really hard to get. Really? Okay. All right. That's interesting. Were the lapis boxes that had the dice in them, were they not as readily available as they might have been here in Japan and in The U.S. I'm not sure. I was not working for the company during Lapis, and so I don't know what the distribution was for that. So. Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. All right, so that would explain it then, right? Okay. Can you make Force of Will character figures? I would buy a Figma figure. That's. I don't have the power either way. If it was something that was shown to be marketable, cool. Um, Alice returning to the forefront. Let me think. Uh, for R4, no, I don't think Alice is in it. I literally last night just scrolled through the like everything just to make sure that it looked good and everything. But from my recollection, Alice is not in R4. Here in the UK, yeah. So some of I think some of the dice were mixed up in all of them. I think it was like purposely. I thought it was like purposely the wrong colored dice, so that like if you got all five, then you would have all the dice for all of them. But I don't know. My girlfriend and I went out to Lapis when Lapis Cluster came out, and we got a play set of each, and was like, okay, yay. Three rulers, including Rhea. Yes. The secrets are not rulers. So I will say that. The secrets are not rulers. The secrets are actually cool this time. Yeah, that face can be the meme. What was it? Chris Pratt doing the dinosaur thing in Lost World. If you haven't seen, I do a lot of meme-worthy stuff on these streams sometimes, so I'm really glad no one screen caps them. And last month I forgot to record. I didn't realize it until the very end, so I couldn't post that one on YouTube, so maybe that's a good thing. Hey, Kaifu. Good morning. Isn't it, like, noon there? Like, that's a lot of sleeping, man. Time Spinning Witch be getting another printing soon. We talked about it. I don't know what the final conclusion was, because I really stressed that you guys and even retailers wanted another print run. So I think they were looking into how to get it out as soon as possible. If I assume the order quota has been filled by now. I'm not totally sure. So I don't know any actual details on that, but that was my understanding. Can we get the chibi email? Oh, yeah, right? I know. I want them so bad. Me too. Like, for the line stickers, I don't know what the process to go to getting your stuff put online actually is. So, that, like, I really want those because, like, I talk to all my students and, like, coworkers and stuff online, and I'm like, it would be awesome to be able to do that. Held a message for profanity. Would you like to comment on that, Wingding? Favorite J ruler specifically. Like, my favorite ruler is by far Sea or the Blue Moon. Favorite J ruler. It's a hard question. No, it's not. Arla 2, the Infinite Stone guy. I love that one. Followed by Loki, because he looks cool. I'm a corporate shill. That must be, what's his name? No, Anton, you're not even... You wouldn't even make that comment, so... Alright. Will Welser actually get direct support in R4? R3 just took a shot on him. Yes, Welser has a couple cards coming. I was joking around, you're going to need like a math PhD to be able to do all the requirements needed for some of his cards, but yeah, he has a couple cards coming. There's some Wicked Spirits, there's some Chants, and there's some Resonators. It's actually, I was joking around, like, Welsler is one of my favorites, and so the idea of, like, him getting any support makes me happy, but I just laughing, like, reading the card, you're going to have, like, a calculator out and be like, all right, so 1 times 3, the square root of 5, all right, double that, and then draw a card, and just, like, I love it, but it's hilariously complicated, so I was like, we can do a couple of these, but let's not go overboard with making them so complicated that you're going to spend 5 minutes just to figure out what the card actually does. So, but yes, he does get some love. The artwork on it all looks super cool. I don't think there's any inverse support in R4. No, that's wrong. I know that's wrong. I lied. Sorry. No, there is inverse in R4. Like, it's really hard keeping all the sets, like, what's what and where. There is inverse cards in R4. It scales as in it gets better with the more crests you have, or at least it makes it more convenient. I started the game with Baja Blast and left for the game with Pussy Reggae. I will never let those kind of decks happen again, so, like, if we ever get to a point where it's that bad, like, I was looking actually back at 2015, Richard Rail posts kind of, like, flashback top 8s, and looking through those, I was just like, oh my god, like, that was 75% all decks, same thing, all the cards exactly the same, 75% of the rulers all the same. It was just like, woo! So, yeah, that was a bit much. So, we saw a teaser image of what appears to be Vivian, assuming it's a fairy. Will these fairies work in the same way they did during Alice Cluster? Maybe allowing them... I know the card you're talking about. I just looked at it. I'm trying to remember what she actually does. That's the hard part. Yeah, I to be honest, I apologize. Like, I can't remember what she does right now. As far as fairies actually go as a, like, Wander style deck, yeah, I love it. I still have it built. Reflect, Refrain, fairies. I love that deck. So, has the game changed a lot? Yes and no. There's still some design decisions from Lapis Cluster and part of Rhea Cluster, where there is kind of this design of, like, green is very strong still, etc. But as far as the metagame as a whole, I keep track of it very closely, along with a couple other people, and combined, I try to have a ban list update every 3 months if we need one, where, at least for the time being, until we get into this new, until we get to the new cluster, like, I will use that as a post-production management to control design. Can you have your orbs back? No. As it turns out, tutoring cards every single turn and countering stuff and bouncing cards, not really fair with a 0 cost. Like, yeah, you know what? Like, you can charge up, and yes, Sherry takes away all your counters. But, at the same time, you wouldn't even care if you had your orbs, because you could recharge up to 5 every turn. So, like, Do you have talks with Rudy from Alpha Investments, who supports them? I do not talk to Rudy. I would actually love to talk to Rudy, like, on a one-to-one basis, because I'm sure you guys know, the YouTube side is very, like, extra, let's say. There's a lot more there, and I've started to watch a little bit less because I feel like it's almost pandering. It's a little bit too much now, and I would like to have like a genuine one-on-one conversation because I think he's brilliant and obviously has a very good idea for a lot of, like, he has good business acumen, let's say. But, yeah, I think that the only way to really get that in a conversation would be to have, like, a sit-down, separate from the internet kind of conversation. Wander will be adjusted as data comes in. The other side of it is I need to see player interest in Wander. Like, if everyone talks like, yay, we love Wander, but no one actually goes to events when we do them, then, I mean, I'll make minor adjustments, but, like, if I see that it's competitively viable, people enjoy it, etc., then I'll take good care of it, and try to get products for us, etc. There's a lot of decks that, in their prime, are ridiculous. What was there a reason inverse cards do not have a flip side? To be honest, I think the team, like, again, I'm speaking my own words. These are not the company words. But my thought is that because there's no cost on the backside, the team was just thinking, okay, there's zero cost. I know that makes it detrimental for, like, getting blown out by True Blade and or Earth and or Unending Hatred, but in that way, it's also a balancing mechanism. So, have you ever considered... No, I hate erratas. Erratas are for typos only. In a printed card game, erratas are incredibly confusing and do not support them in any way. Because it also lets you just fix... Like, you can errata in an online game. And it's no problem because the card now reads as exactly it's intended. No issue. In a printed game, if you open a pack and you're like, oh, this card's cool, I like this, the only players who are going to know that it has an errata are invested players, which at a tournament shouldn't be too much of an issue. But at the same time, it just creates too many logistical issues with, like, do I trust what the card says? Are they going to change it later on? It creates too many uncertainty questions that I just don't want to delve into. It's much easier to go binary, just, it's allowed, it's not allowed. If there's a typo, like it's correct in some languages and not in another, that's one thing. That's a different kind of errata. And then as far as limiting, same deal. Like, could you really justify what cards go at 1, 2, 3, and 4? Like, how do you make that distinction, etc.? Like, I don't believe there's a great science, so to speak, in figuring that answer out, and so I just deem it to be binary and that to be the way to do it. Can I get you can get a shirt like mine. All you have to do... Oh, it's a Judge shirt! So, actually, I'm just wearing this today because it's really hot outside, so I didn't want to wear something long sleeve, and this is a short sleeve shirt, so yay. Speaking of the Judge program, I think there's going to be some new stuff coming on that pretty soon. We got some of the tests finished. We're writing a program for some of it now, so something can be online. No, complex bands are way too messy in a physical game. Complex bands are like, this prohibits this, so i.e. Drizzle prevents Swift Swim, if you're familiar with Pokemon, or like Sand Rush and Sandstorm, like, can't be on the same team. That become, in an online game, no problem. Like, Smogon, easy to control. You can't join if you have those things. In a physical game, way too difficult to check. I agree with Just Extras as far as converted mana costs are a little bit wonky in our game. Like, as far as, like, what a certain ability should cost, etc. I've actually asked that a document be made, at least for internal issues for design, to like, this effect costs this, so therefore when costing this card, the baseline should be this. If you want to make it a little bit strong competitively, we can mess with it. And or like if it's going to be like drafty cards, maybe you go up one or two. I was joking around about Dark Elves. I said that the artwork is so beautiful they should be tier 0 just because they look awesome. I have my Freyla deck built, but I think right now Keurig is the superior aggro deck. So I'm sad because Dark Elves are beautiful and I love them. And Ishisho is like my favorite artist, but that's a me personal thing. What about if it was a part of the card type itself's ruling, posto Pedro, as far as like there can only be one of these cards in play, like, so you're talking about legendary cards in Magic. If it was a part of the card type itself, then I feel like it would be doable. It would be another new card type, which I think it needs time to be introduced. But the idea itself, I'm not against. But at the same time, it's kind of cool. Like, you know, our game is kind of, we have a lot of like strong cards, and because we have a 40 card deck with no resources in the main deck, like drawing cards is incredibly powerful, and seeing those cards is incredibly powerful. So having a singular card that can be in play that's very powerful needs to have, like, drawing a second copy needs to be very bad, or tutoring it needs to be very difficult, etc., etc. But the point being that those type of cards, balancing them can be very challenging, unless it's just an effect you don't want to see stacked. So like Thalia, for example, in Magic is literally just Sphere of Resistance for spells, but you can stack Sphere of Resistances. You can't stack Thalias. But Thalia is actually a creature, so... Alright, let's see. Can we expect some support for rare cluster J rulers during the next set? I've talked about it. I think direct support, you're probably not going to see so much. Like, you're not going to see things naming, what's it called? Like, Pearl Shine or whatever. But there will be some cards that are just like, hey, if I want to play this ruler, this new card would go in this deck well. Hey, look at my Pandora Golems is playable now. I'm not a big fan of one per deck rules. Legendary, I think, is the better choice if you're going to do it, where you can have 4 in your deck, but you just can't have them in play at the same time, because then you can manage that within like the logistics of the game rather than the deck design. Alright, let me scroll up here for a second. No, Pandora's not amazing, unfortunately, but she'll get a little bit better. Will the release of Null and Inverse in R3 and the competitiveness of it being severely lacking in comparison to the power of Grimoire Legend? Is there any adjustments coming? So I think part of that, too, is the design process as a whole. Wait, did we freeze? Oh, okay. I think the design process as a whole is complicated because, like, not everything is meant to be competitively viable, like, at the top tables. It's just, you're not going to have everything always be there. Like, I rarely reference Yu-Gi-Oh! As a well-designed game, but we'll use Infernities, which was essentially, like, the no-hand mechanic, and Hellbent in Magic, and, I mean, lots of games have that mechanic. But the idea that null is very, I was actually talking about this literally yesterday. It's very difficult to balance it because you either need it to be so good that the spells and stuff that you top deck are amazing, and like you plus 4 or 5 on card advantage by playing that singular card, or it's just not going to be competitively viable because you have no resources, and if it gets counterspelled, then bleh. And so, and Hellbent, I think, is more, I mean, essentially having no cards in hand on creatures that trigger other abilities, I think that's all right. But again, you have to have, like, the creatures have to be somewhat viable if you were going to make them, like, competitively viable. They would have to be good by themselves. And that's where there's a very big distinction, because more often than not, synergy decks have the most difficult time being good in a competitive game, because competitive decks are generally based on good cards for the most part. Like, we know a lot of our pro players use, like, the rating scale. This card sucks, this card sucks, this card sucks, this card's amazing. And we very rarely hear them say things like, reasonable in this deck kind of thing. We don't have a lot of that because generally our will combinations are so good that the best decks can kind of run everything. And so it's just what combination of ruler, cards, etc. gives you the best combination as a competitive. Like, I think we've gone in the right direction to some extent. Like, Piggy requiring strength counters to give haste to all your stuff kind of forces you to use Carrick. Like, you can use other stuff, but it helps a lot. Sherry using dolls forces her into using these creatures with no protection, and I mean, yes, they'll have quick cast, which is incredibly strong, but like it, and the same with like Thunderfish needing to go in Shayla, etc. Like, those cards are very powerful, and it locks them into a certain place, but then it just becomes who takes advantage of the wider card pool as a whole, and as it's been for the last year or two, green has had the best cards, and therefore green rulers have had the most support and the most luck. Like, all the way back, like, let's go way back to L2. Like, we still had Valentina, she was solid. We had Fox, we had Arla, we had, like, green was still really good. Going into Priscia, green-red. Then Fair. Then, what's her name? Lumia, blinking stuff, but using the green cards to kind of support that. Now Sherry. Like, it's continuously been green has had the best cards to put around your ruler, so the rulers that could abuse that the best were then the best. And I think going forward, like, addressing that in some way is going to be kind of the way to, like, try to make things viable, like, as a circular level. Like, this is good against this is good against that, etc., etc. So rather than just like a 2D just power creeping, as you make it kind of, this gets good, this becomes better, then this doesn't have a reason to play. Then I played this because it goes that one down, kind of thing. Time Will is like Moon Will, from my understanding, is that it is not an attribute, so it can pay for time will symbols, and it can also pay for free will costs. And Staring Bridge in our game would be very strong if it was something that couldn't be destroyed easily. At first, every red card was good. Yeah, kinda. Similar deal. I mean, in Valhalla, green was shenanigans, and black was pretty good also. And then we moved into red, was really strong. And then kind of went into green, and then black. Yeah. So white really hasn't had a great time to shine yet. Yes, exactly like that. You know, I've talked about also color pie, but also ruler pie. Also, I think that's something that we want to look at going forward. I think that's kind of our unique way of it. Is like, rulers should have a flavor as much as colors too. And that's one thing actually I've found really interesting and kind of hypocritical about some of the players is that, like, when the rulers are all the same, people get angry. Okay, we have diverse rulers. The cards are all the same now. Okay, like, there's a moving goalpost as far as perfect balance, and I understand, like, yes, we strive for that. Like, when they keep moving the balance, or excuse me, the like, this game is balanced goal line, it's kind of like, all right, guys, like, you're pushing me. Like, I can only do so much. So, like, we don't have 200 plus cards per set, so, I mean, we got to work with what we got. Yeah, I 100% agreed. How do I say your name? Post OP Pedro? Is it Posto Pedro? Like, I'm sorry, but yes, I agree. In terms of reprinting, do you think there will ever be reprints of rulers in New Frontiers from Wander rather than new versions? Man, I'm tongue twisted today. Of old rulers. I have thought about that as well. But I think it has to thematically make sense, and, like, I mean, maybe, like, I've asked about, whoa, we just got a bunch of posts. Okay, but real quick to finish that thought, I've thought about, like, hey, you know what, we could bring an old thing back and have it get energized, and maybe it's updated to the current stuff, and it counts as this ruler is in its text line or something. But I don't... This is just designer talk. It's not so much like, that's not a reality. It's just like, no, that's an idea. I don't know. Realistically, that's not going anywhere in the next cluster. I don't see it, at least. All right, give me a second, guys. There's a bunch of stuff that got posted. Let's see. Reprint the Ascended Rulers. The actual Ascended Rulers, or do you mean like you want new Ascended Rulers? Because I kind of want new Ascended Rulers. That's my thing. But problem with that is, like, there's a whole bunch of issues with that, so trying to figure that out has been a big thing. 100%. Like, it's very easy to complain. It's very hard to fix. And I respect Mark Rosewater a lot. And to be honest, like, over the last 20 years, I've read a lot of his stuff. And I think he's a very intelligent man. And not the worst person in the world if you wanted to emulate someone as a professional designer. He's probably the top of my list. Maybe Richard's above him, but I think he's designed more for the game. Richard has done, I think, a better job of creating fun for the game. But as far as, like, Millium and stuff are still in New Frontiers. I don't think they need Ascension. They're fine. I think support cards for them, Fairy Tales, etc. But they're very open-ended, so they're the kind of thing, like, same with Fox. Like, the whole reason I try not to ban Fox the Ruler is because, like, making more Griffins can put him as good or as weak as we want him to be. The same with, like, Millium, Grimm, any Fairy Tale-based ruler. Like, all you gotta do is give them a couple good resonators, and boom, all of a sudden they're really viable. I would love to see I like what's her name? The Fairy Alice, but, like, I definitely think it's tough now with all our board wipes and stuff for her to really shine. Millium Fairy Tale Rush is a pile of shenanigans. I love it. I love that deck. I was playing the crap. It was a Peter Pan, the one-drop Fairy Tale, Will of Hope, plus Wendy, and you, like, machine gun punch with Wendy. Oh, God, I love that stuff. Some of the ones you just named, Thick Bisquick, are on my personal design sheet, and I've already made Ascended versions of them. I've pitched them, but to no avail, because it's just that program is kind of on hiatus. But I'm like, Yeah, some of those I like a lot. I think Grim honestly is fine. Like pumping him too much is very like he's one of those ones you got to adjust very carefully, because when a card has a repeatable tutor effect, that's incredibly strong. So, anyways, Ryula's Volition. Remind me what Ryula's Volition was. Athena, aha, my dear, the ping one to both players, and then she gets 2 counters. Oh man, I miss it. Oh, she was fun. I used her with was it Yoshitsune? I think it was a Yoshitsune deck. I used she's got the untapped 2 resonators, and I would use Athena and the exploding Priscia, and you would attack with Athena and what's her name, Priscia, and then Judgment your Yoshitsune, untap those 2, attack again, sacrifice them to Levitine to get like too many bonuses, and then swing with your like 2 or 3k what's it called? Yoshitsune. It was just like this big herp derp turn. But the thing was you were all in on it, so that's why I'm okay with a ton of damage if it's all in like that. Oh yeah. Yeah. Ryula's Volition. I used that in my white book deck to do really well, because as it turns out that card's bonkers. So yeah, I loved that. I did fairly well with white book. I really. Also, how likely would it be for cards to be unbanned, even some of the more unfun cards, as long as there are plentiful answers to them? I'm okay with unbanning things if in test, like, there's no way in heck I would unban anything without testing it extensively and asking kind of my Wander support people to test it as well and confirm that, like, if it's boosting, if a deck is like, okay, if here's your meta decks, and so for example, yeah, I obviously hit the crap out of Fox in the ban list. So let's say Fox is down here. If I gave Griffin back, I need to ensure that Fox isn't going from here to way up here and just being like, okay, that was a bad idea. If it brings it up to viable contention, maybe it's okay. But it's very, very, for me to unban something, I have to be very sure that it's not going to mess stuff up. That's not the problem. The problem with Fox and Griffin and all that is just there's so much card advantage that you have to be running it or be running hate for it. And so it creates a very, what's the word, dichotomic? Like, basically, it creates, you have to run this or this. And because this is so strong, you have to run answers for it. And they have to be very specific answers to deal with it. You can't just run creature removal because Fox is like, I don't care about creature removal, I'll just make another one. And the card advantage and tempo that goes with it is incredibly powerful. I don't think there was any comments about Vingolfs are, as a concept, are still around, but right now there's no plans for the next one yet. We talked about it though. Have you considered having a Vingolf that reprints? Yes, I have Wanderer reprint cards, etc. Basically, the entire pitch was response was, prove to us that Wanderer is good, and then we can at least potentially begin to take it seriously. Until we see from like the data that it's popular, not going to see anything happen. Like that's why I ask you guys, like, if you really like are seriously supporting Wander, talk about it. Show me. Post lists. Go to events that have Wander, and soon enough we'll be able to see what events, like the statistics of what events are actually being held at LGS in the U.S. In Europe, we can already see that information, but in the U.S. and in Japan, etc., and U.K., we don't know, like, locals, what people are running, etc. So we will not see things like panda, golems, mermaids, and such in the next cluster. Like Hope of Will. So Hope of Will was introduced in L4 and then didn't get any support. However, like golems, mermaids, etc. have gotten support for the entirety of Rhea cluster. There may or may not be small things, but realistically, most of the support is going to be for the new rulers themselves. But we're still working out everything for the new cluster as far as like the little details. Reprint Golf 3. I need more thoughts for my stones. We still have Golf 3 here. There you go. Boom. Money maker. Let me just check something. Oh dear, we have a whole bunch of messages. Let's see. No, it's just my students messaging me. I'll answer homework questions later. So, on the subject of banned cards, is it currently thought that with Severing Winds rotating out and banned, there should be an E in there, banned in Wander already, would Otherworldly Dreams be coming back as long as no strong counters like Severing Winds are banned? I'm not sure, to be honest. I need to see the completed version of the new cluster, and then I will test it and go from there. I'll be honest, my initial thought is a one-cost answer everything is very strong. But if the game around the card has changed or is different, then it should absolutely be tested nonetheless, and so I will do that. Even if it means having to write out the cards on paper. That's my initial impression too, just extra. But, I mean, I will not let theory crafting alone decide. I generally like to have evidence to prove my thoughts. So the problem with just because of the tap land thing, like you're thinking the quick lands from Magic and stuff, and yeah, I know, but like remember, guys, like we're not trying to just copy Magic. I know Magic does a lot of great things, but remember there are also some things that Magic does very poorly, and so like we're kind of trying to understand and learn from other games, or I'm trying to make note of the things that other game companies have learned, and then make best decisions going forward. Like, I love our resource system. Whenever I play Magic, I get frustrated sometimes nowadays when I'm like, if I don't get my lands or whatever else. Like, so, there are definitely some things Force does excellent. I already answered that question. When's Diddy Kong? Oh, Diddy Kong Racing 64. Oh, love that game. God, I love, what was it? Timber, the tiger, and he was really good with the hovercraft. God, love that game. I watch like speedruns of it all the time. I always try to hook people into Force Motion. Exactly, yeah. I say it's Magic with a fixed resource system and like better art, but that's very subjective. So, as far as the for Yu-Gi-Oh is very popular in Japan, so I have to explain to them the whole process of a resource system and why they can't just play everything. Do you have a favorite Pokemon? I do. Of all time, Scizor. Like, he's been awesome since Gen 2. He sucked competitively until Gen 4, but I'm cool with that. And hey, but the promo art's awesome. So, as far as for current meta, I've been playing Smogon with my students when they challenge me. and I what have I been playing? I basically just make one team and then play it until my students figure out how to like play around it. And so I've been running like Megamanectric, Gliscor, Muck, Alolan Muck, Iron Plate, Sword Dance, Scissor. Oh God, what was it? I forgot the other two. Sorry, but yeah. So and Jirachi is also on my favorites just for Body Slam and Iron Head. Being that guy. Anyways, yeah, I'm definitely watching Otherworld in the Providence GP. I sent them a few months after sending them in. I never got an answer. Should I just give up? From my understanding, like there was a very tight frame. I wasn't working at the company then, but there was a very tight window when you could do that stuff, and as long as the shot, like the office is where all the cards are, there's almost none left for the Ascended Rulers. Like that, what is out there is all that was made. So, because I think they made it to order for that thing. So, if you didn't send them in time, hopefully you'll get your stuff back at the very least. But I have no idea. Yeah, I use Pokemon for a teaching tool. I think it's an awesome teaching tool. Like, it teaches you like the psychology of competitive gaming to understand how like you need to not only understand what's in front of you, but also to consider how your opponent will react to certain things. Like I use the typical fire, water, grass, and it's like if I have a Blastoise and you have a Charizard, the most obvious play is to use like Scald, right, or Hydro Pump if you're a gambling man. But if I have a Venusaur, then that and all right, let's say I'm a not Mega Evolved yet, Mega Venusaur. So if you make the play and switch, and I Scald you, that sucks. But if you make the play and Ice Beam, then okay, like you might get that super effective damage. Or you just spam Dark Pulse and tee-hee-hee-hee-hee. So that's kind of the neutral play there, right? But at the same time, it could be Charizard Y and then Solar Beam you back and tee-hee. Or, so, that I try to emphasize that kind of thinking. Gets students to think that, to understand that questions don't just have one right answer. Yes, regarding LGSs, I don't know how much I've said in the past. Yes, you will be able to rewatch it. I remembered to hit recording this time. But as far as LGS support, my goal is essentially a reworking of the system so that there will be 3 levels. There'll be level 0, which is your local... Where's my... Why? Oh, okay. Level 0 is your locals, and that's your kind of... You can do anything you want. You play it every week. Level 1 is your, in America, ARGs. That's in Europe, your kind of invented events, like maybe once in a while, and also going to be the Master Store qualifier and championships. And so we'll get into what those are when I make that announcement. And then the last thing is game 2, or game 2. Level 2 is going to be your GPs, your WGP, your high level, like competitively, incredibly serious events. So so yes, there's absolutely plans to grossly support that level 1 section, because I think that's where we stand to like have the most players interacting and playing the actual game, which is of course the most important thing about playing a game, is that you can actually play it. Will the US see the dual stones? I believe yes. I've been working on ways to get them to you. So I've been thinking about different ways because they're beautiful. So yes, I'm aware you guys like them. So I'm looking into I have a similar problem. I'm waiting for the 2017 WPS polls. I write the company in February. In response, they told me that they will send it again. But the moment, it might be worth considering that you've been sent stuff, and it might not be the company. It might be the postal system. Depending on, I don't know this, but depending on which country you're in, it very well may be that it's outside of the company's control. That I know some countries have very suspect customs agencies. Sorry, like it's the reality of it. I know in the past there's been a lot of issues with some countries, like especially with shipping Magic cards, of, oh, someone's sending this a $10,000 card. So that's the reality of it. Anyways, you can also watch it. Yep, you can watch on Twitch, and you can see me do all kinds of stupid stuff. Players with 20 despair counters must curl up into a ball and sit in the corner. That's how I feel after work most days. Any information this year for a Willpower Award? Not that I know of, although I think it's been decided. Not to announce, at least. Those aren't really new dual stones. That's just, one of those is literally just copying Ice Age lands from Magic, and the other is just literally our own stones from before. So, for those, I mean, I hear you guys, but without having them be lined up with the cluster themselves, and you know what, like, on the dual stone front, like, on one side, it'd be super interesting to have dual stones with actual drawbacks, or like forced come into play tap, rusted abilities. But at the same time, like, I think it would be super interesting to have a at least limited constructed format where we didn't have perfect will for a little while, or that it was just a like ruler support stones, so you are more incentivized to use the support of the ruler rather than just play all the good cards in one pile. So, alright, we'll play Showdown sometime. I generally, OU has been terrible since, like, Gen 5, so I generally stick to, basically I play whatever tier Scissor is legal in. That's kind of how I go about it. When there's, like, right now there's too many Ubers, or not Ubers, too many legendaries in OU that just makes me feel like the power creep has turned OU into Ubers, and Ubers into free-for-all, and or anything goes, and anything goes into just, we forgot how to balance our game. So, I think Pokemon's having a power creep issue, too, in the actual game itself. We already have Resonators that get stronger with more stones you have. It's just that you got to remember at the same time, the games don't usually last to past turn 10 too often. And as a once per turn mechanic, without having a, like, and you also can't call generally on the turn that you Judgment without using other cards, like Vlad was a great example of why it was good to have more. Doesn't have any more constrictive mana choices to make it more different. So, I will say this, that restriction breeds creativity. And while it may seem like restricting your mana choices, will choices, lets you build creative decks, it actually doesn't, because then you're just going to play the same good cards in every deck, right? Because you can play everything, so, and we already know, like, these are kind of the best cards in every color, so then why would you not play, like, you have no reason to ever choose suboptimal cards, so you're generally going to just play the best cards of every color. Now, if you're restricted by color restrictions, it becomes much more important to actually be like, all right, this costs triple green, and if I don't have a way to make triple green without other color distribution, now that's a legitimate drawback, so to speak, like Ultra Dragon being 3 red, like, now you have to really be like, okay, I gotta be pretty much all in red if it was just pure basic stones. So I think that actually you get more creativity with restriction. Now, of course, it can be boring if it's just like, if you've ever watched Valhalla, it's like Valhalla block. It's basically like 6-4 or 5-5 like basic stones, and that's it. But that can be a little bit restricting, but even then you have 2-color decks. I think, like, my problem is actually more like when you see Legacy and Modern, where you have essentially perfect mana, and you then are just playing the best cards that fit into your deck. And so in that way, I think actually restriction breeds creativity, and that's true in most facets of life, game design, classwork, etc. So, the game is healthy or up in the air and down. I'm obviously biased, going up in my opinion, but the game has never had a more closely watched metagame than it does now. And while players may have comments and feel like there are things that were relatable to things in the past, I promise you there's never been the data behind it to make any movements like there is now. So when something is done, it's done because we have the support to make that decision, not because we feel like it's right. For the new cluster, we need basic magic stones, much like the beautiful... they are nice, aren't they? But something is only special if it's special, right? If everything had full art lands like they do in Magic, then they lose the specialty. So, I want to be playing this game. Yeah, me too. Like, I honestly, and I will say this 100%, totally honest. Like, of course, as a company, yes, I want the game to survive, and, like, it's fun to be able to talk to you guys and have all these opportunities to do stuff. As a player, like, I go and play locals or go to GPs, whatever, as much as I can without getting yelled at by the woman. So, like, I really, really have, like, all intents and purposes, I want this game to continue to last and to live, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure that it's taken care of. So, like, it's very important to me that the game, and that's why I've tried to kind of promote that. Like, we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. Like, Force of Will is, like, to me, a viable contender of a enjoyable card game that you can play into the future. So, like, I understand there's people that are in it for the short term. They want their money, they want their whatever, and that's fine. Like, but I mean, generally those people aren't necessarily too attached to any one game. They'll play whatever is the best for them, and that's fine. You know what? Cool. But for, like, there are people, like, when I said, there's I apologize, I forgot your name, but the guy who got a tattoo of Lumia on his shoulder, that's awesome. Like, I want to make sure that people know that this game exists and that it becomes more and more and more well-known. And you know what? We blew up and were really popular at first, and then we kind of, I think we lost some of the excess and the fluff, and some bad decisions were made. But the goal is now that, like, we have pretty much everyone that plays our game, and you hear everyone that goes to tournaments, they love it. It's a good experience. They have a really nice time. And my goal is to keep growing that back and getting the players that love us, and that people who play our game have a good atmosphere, a wonderful, like, kind of experience, and continue to tell their friends about it. So, my playmate and me are going to keep the game alive here in Argentina, and we thank you. In South America, like, we know that's a place to grow, and the problem is just kind of reaching out more there, and it'd be nice if the infrastructure was there to grow, and it's just, I mean, unfortunately, we as a company don't have the resources to completely build, like, the distribution channels and everything else in South America that are already kind of in place in some other parts of the world. So it's just, we do the best with what we have to us, and that financially can make sense. Oh yeah, I've played with iMule a bunch. I'm like, so obviously, like, I built Sherry, and if you've ever watched Jeremy's videos, like, you saw my initial list of her, and so obviously it's been updated since then and a little bit more competitive. That makes me really happy too, by the way, that Ontario's good. I'm from CNY, so Central New York, so like Rochester, Syracuse area, and so like Toronto is actually my basically favorite North American city. So I love that there's anything there. It makes me really happy. The Yeah, iMule is super fun though. The Just the concept of it, and like, you can, it forces certain interactions, and the drain is really nice, and she's got flying, which certain people that I play with can't seem to remember, and other things. So just, no, I really like it. Logistically, she's a pain in the butt to keep flipping cards, but yeah. Excuse me. I went with, let's see, for iMule, I kind of wanted to use the invert, cards. I know a popular version is just like, sorry. I know a popular version right now is like Turbo Jupiter, and that's good, but like, I feel like with Sherry being so popular, and Fair Spell thus being so common, you don't want to bet all your eggs on turboing out a card that dies to a 1-drop. I mean, you can waste time with Shayla doing that. Actually, that's really interesting that you say that, because I actually noticed whenever Americans come to Japan or some other places, the Americans are almost always the ones that go to time, that are drawing, that are like not finishing their games. And I don't know if that's just like a play style or what it is, but it's really interesting. Almost all the other groups don't have that issue. So I'm very interested, like, what the mentality difference is that causes that. And it might be one of those, if I can't win, I might as well not lose. But I think that's something that can be looked at into the future. So, but I'm also the type of player that when I play, as soon as it gets to a point where like it's statistically improbable that I'll win, I'll just scoop and go to the next game. So like, I very rarely will. If it's a casual game, I'll play it out. But if it's a competitive game, I'm much more apt to what's it called? If it's a competitive game, I'm much more apt to try and get my games in. Yeah, I know, Travis. So that's something that needs to kind of be looked at then, to, like, players should not be incentivized for drawing, but games should also be possible to be finished within 50 or 60 minutes. So that, I mean, goes both ways. But I also have, like, more often than not, I've had, so, like, between worlds, between, like, you guys know, there's so many, like, slow play calls where it's like, have you not practiced enough? Or, like, what's the deal? Why is this taking so long? So, Jeff, you can answer me this relative to R3 in a conversation with Robert T. I think Robert was probably looking at the cost of shipping, because if I recall, it's probably quite expensive to ship if you're in South America. So it'll be worked on, but I'm sure he just needs approval. That approval doesn't come from me. I don't sign Rob's paychecks. So, but it's just a matter of probably how many get sent out at once, etc. There is a minimal amount of doll in R4, I believe, But let's be serious, Sherry doesn't need too much to be good right now. So I have all the tournament standings for top 8s. As far as individual stuff, the new system will be able to track everything. But the sign up, the DCI number, etc. The European players have it already, and they're awesome. So we're trying to port that to the EU, to Japan, to the USA, and then also get all of the systems working together and talking to each other, which is the fun part. So it takes a little bit of time. We're still working on that, but the sooner that's ready, the better. No bully. Like, believe me, guys, I love Sherry. Like, literally, the eternal speaker is me. So, but at the same time, she's one of those guys. When she comes out, very strong, of course, we knew that. But going into, I'm not worried in the long term for Sherry, but it's just, you guys seem to be pretty ants in your pants about her right now, and all I can just say is chill. But long games are growing in frequency. I know that. I think it's also part of the reason is that closing games is relatively difficult. So for example, if you're familiar with Hearthstone and Shadowverse, Hearthstone doesn't have great ways to close the game for control decks. Like, it does, but it takes a long time to get there. And so playing 3 games of that's difficult, whereas Shadowverse is made to basically be over in 10 to 15 minutes. And so some of your late, 9, 10 resource cost creatures or resonators, whatever, are ridiculously game ending. And one side it feels bad, but it's designed that way to finish the game. Like, when you drop Aegis in Shadowverse, and if you're not familiar with this card, basically it's this huge creature that is not affected by other cards. The only thing that affects it is stat changes, but it can't be destroyed, it can't be targeted, nothing works on it, but it's one of those cards, it's meant to end the game for control cards. It's one of those, if you don't finish the game in the next 2 turns, this card will just overrun you, and there's just nothing that can be done about it. So, and we don't really have that, and I think that's kind of all right, because in a card game it feels really bad, especially if there's a way to cheat it in, and you have to be very careful. Hey, look, Emicrol, this super game-ending card. Oh wait, I can play it on turn 3? Fantastic. So, that's the kind of thing you got to be careful of. I love Aegis, by the way. But that part, the theming and everything is what I love about him. It's just I will repent or whatever, and I forget what he says in English, but it's really cool. He's just one of those yeah, you done goofed if you got this far. Who needs game when you can go face? Yeah, and that's true. That should be a viable option too, because I think a lot of new players find sometimes combat math with other resonators to be very complicated. And so in some ways, going face should absolutely be an option. When I was first testing against Sherry, I was testing out some really aggro variants, and I was all right, good. She has a soft spot for aggro. And we knew, she doesn't close games extremely well. Of course, she's getting better at that, as we're seeing now with the more mid-rangey, I can stall you out long enough to just go boom. But, I like in all game ideas, the idea of red deck wins kind of thing. That it doesn't have to be red necessarily, but some version of aggro deck can be strong if not prepared for. And then you have your mid-range, which is generally your good stuff deck, and you have your whatever, and so you have your kind of your good themes. So in regard to the new promo Dual Stones, what's up with the cards on their art? Fox being they're strictly just look cool, guys. Don't stress too much there. It's they're European landmarks plus cool artwork plus Dual Stone. There's no well, you see, in ancient times, Dark Alice was part blue, and no, it's none of that. Yeah, Lightning Cave is just like, thanks. But you know what? Like, nobody's running Lightning Cave besides Shayla right now, so it's kind of, that's, uh, technically I should be going on for about another 10 minutes, but all I'm doing today is going to the bookstore, gonna go buy, Dragon Ball Z's, like, frame data guide, because I have been getting blown up because I can't find a safe string to, like, so right now I'm playing Kid Buu, Cell, and I think Black, Goku Rose, essentially, and so I haven't been able to find like a good corner pressure string that doesn't get blown up by down heavy. So like Boo obviously has like those great overheads, but so many of the overheads get blown up by down heavy if you're not covering it well. So gotta go find out what moves are safe on block. Let's see. New primordial stones. What other country? Some countries, like I'm trying to figure out how to get them to other countries, but still keep them rare and special and everything. So, because there is no like, Vingolf 4 is purely a hypothetical. There is nothing designed for it. There's no plans for it yet. But it's one of those. It's not out of the question. It's just a matter of when we have information to talk about, we'll do it. But for the time being, we're not there. Alright, take it easy, March Osias Metatron. I have not unlocked 21 yet. I want to play 21 because she looks awesome, and I love that, like, I like thin Boo characters, so I like Kid Boo, 21, etc. But, yeah. Someone asked about this playmat. That was from China, from my understanding. It is the second runner-up. They already know about the green thing. It's already, like, everything for, what's it called? Rhea Cluster was done before I could have enough sass to correct course. So, green will be decent, at least, for the rest of Rhea. But, going into the next set, like, there's a very conscientious move the attributes around, have a color pie, have a ruler pie, and kind of stick to that. I don't know if I'm supposed to share that development-wise stuff, so I won't say for now. That's, but I've been peeking into it. I don't have any architect reveals because I think Rob's kind of taking care of some of that. What I do have is, hold on, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to not talk for a second, so I'll put on some background music. But I'm going to try and find the promo artwork that I wanted to show you guys. So give me just a second. And
Alright, so I apologize that it's kind of, the screen's a little bit messy. But, this is your first preview of a certain character that some people have correctly guessed. This is the witch this is the time-spinning witch. This is the first part of her that you'll see. So, this is really pretty, right? I will say that all of the support for the time-spinning witch, like the character, the artwork is beautiful. So, this is the first part of kind of her support. I think there'll be some preview of this, what's it called? Wow, I'm forgetting days of the week. Monday. But, so this will be probably shown on Monday. But, yeah, so that is my little sneak preview for you guys for this stream. So, hopefully when we get closer to release, I'll be able to maybe preview more things that are delicious and awesome. So, yeah. With that being said, guys, I'm going to... excuse me. Sorry, guys. I'm going to probably call that a day. So I will stay in the stream for a little bit and answer questions for a little bit longer. But I'm going to end the stream and probably in the next 10 minutes or so. But I know a couple of you asked questions while I was dealing with this, so I want to answer those real quick before I go. So, and I also want to get lunch. I'm hungry. Thanks a bunch, guys. Have a wonderful day. I hope I could answer some of your questions. I know there's still lots of things you guys want to know. If I had missed your questions, I'm apologizing. I really do try to answer everything I can. Of course, I'm always peeking on all the, forums and everything. So, not forums these days. Groups, sorry. So, with that being said, guys, have a wonderful Sunday/Saturday, and best of luck, and I will see you next month. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.